Yeah, that's nowhere near 400 pounds. Welcome back to Bad Attitude C10. Today we're going to go over the valve spring tester that I picked up from LSM. Now guys, this is not a product or a tool that was sponsored by them, but I wanted to share the information on it because I don't want y'all to go through the, I guess you say turmoil or hassle of wasting your money like I did, which you could actually see in this video. So I figured it's a good product. It's made very well, it's USA made, and I'll be able to use this for a long time to come. So even though it costs a bit more than what we would normally want to spend, and believe me, again, like I mentioned in the previous video, without Bubba's help and allowing me to make payments on this thing, I never would have been able to get it. But in the long run, it's going to be beneficial, and I'm going to be able to do stuff right. So let's get to it. So LSM offers this tester in a bunch of varieties and pounds, I guess you can say. So you get a 160, a 400, a 600, or a 1000. So for our application, I chose the 600 pound. So the overall view of it, you actually get this tester, and it's a pretty heavy piece of aluminum. A little Allen wrench to set the adjustment collar, which instead I'm going to use this little ratchet in a bit. And a small thing over the coverage, the instructions itself, and it's for each model. And this cool little advertisement they got for a dial indicator you can get to actually mount to it, and then you can check the spring height and everything as you test it. So there's two flats, one on each side of this, and there is just a little bitty adjustable collar that can slide up and down this. And you can tighten up the Allen bolt with the Allen wrench they supply, or in our case, we will be using the ratchet. Now, when you snug this up, what it does is it creates a stop. So whenever you use a measurement on it and create the stop, you can just turn the handle, and when the springs are in there, and when it hits the stop, you stop. So in doing this, it'll basically make it to where instead of having to have a caliper or something and checking every spring, you can just roll through them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set this up, and we're going to check their installed height, and then we're also going to check what they have as an open height. So you can take just a regular pair of calipers, and there's two flats, one on each side, and you can sit here and you snug it up and turn it to the point where you need it, which in our case it's 1 inch and 780 thousandths. Now I am going to tell y'all, if you freehand this and then try to tighten it up and then push the stop up, just the weight of the handle, it will back off. And so it's kind of a pain in the ass if you're going to sit here and try to hold it and then hold pressure on it. And while you're holding pressure on it, then snug it up and turn it. And once all this is said and done, you put your calipers back in, you turn it, and you get it up to the stop. It's not going to be where you originally tried to put it. So I kind of had a brain fart, and that old adage, you need to be smarter than what you're working with. So what I chose to do was, since the handle could turn backwards on its own, I just put a spring in it. That way there'd be spring tension on it. And just threw a spring in there, and then got it to where I'd be able to measure the spring, and I turned it, and with a set of calipers, I monitored it, and as I tightened it up and got it pretty close to where it needed to be, I went on ahead and slid the stop collar up, and I tightened it using the ratchet with the bit. And now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and back away from this and get you all a little better view. Alright guys, so I moved the camera down to the tabletop or the bench top, whichever you'd like to say. That way you can actually see the caliper from the same angle I'm looking at it. When I tilted it to try to get a bird's eye view with the camera elevated, it kind of fluctuated a bunch, and I wanted y'all to see the accurate measurements. So after tightening everything up, presetting it and making our stop be where it was supposed to be at the 1 inch 780 thousandths mark, I went on ahead and put the spring in. And remember, this is without the retainer. We're wanting to see pressure differences. So here you can see I hit the stop. So we're going to use the caliper and double check. And again, guys, we're looking for 1 inch 780 thousandths. And as you can see here, we're dead nuts on. So we're going to go ahead and call this good, and we're going to roll through these and check them and write down what they are. Now guys, I'm listing these springs. This first one's at 135 pounds, and they're supposed to be 155. And BTR does recommend, keeping them somewhere between 10 plus or minus from there. So our window would be technically 145 to 155. And we're just going to scroll through these, and here's spring number 2 is at 129 pounds. So far, both springs without the retainer, which is improperly being checked, because you should check a dual spring. If it has an offset style retainer and the inner spring is shorter, you need to use a retainer. Spring number 3 came into 135 pounds, just like the first one. And I do have my retainers numbered because we're going to note all this stuff whenever I do set my regular pressures. And that way, if we need to play a game, if we have a high spring, we can change retainers out or swap the inner and outer springs and see what we can do. Spring number 4 came in at 134 pounds. So again, guys, if our magic number is plus or minus 10 from the 155 at our installed height, so far none of our springs are within tolerance. But again, this is not a manufacturer issue. This is because we're checking the springs improperly because we do not have the retainer installed. So even though you're going to see tons of people on the internet say, oh, it doesn't make a difference, you can check them and it doesn't matter if the retainer's in or not. Well, here's spring number 6 is at 132 pounds. If the retainer has a step, again, the inner spring's shorter than the outer spring, that means you're actually going to compress the outer spring sooner than the inner spring if you're testing without the retainer. So how is that going to read properly? Spring number 7 comes in at 131 pounds. So guys, again, we're shooting for 155 plus or minus 10. So 145 to 165. So here we go. Spring number 8 came in at 136 pounds. So we're still no bueno so far. And check this out. If we were to contact BTR and say, hey, here's the spring pressures we're getting and da-da-da-da-da-dee, they might actually send us a stronger set of springs thinking that, you know, well, these are not going to be in our ballpark range that we need. Spring number 9 comes in at 130 pounds. Now guys, I'm going to go ahead and double check the setting. And again, remember our installed height is supposed to be at 1 inch, 780 thousandths. And right here, as you can see, it says 1 inch, 781 thousandths. And if I kind of wiggle it around trying to find a sweet spot, it's pretty much the 181, 182, there's the 180 with the 5, 180 with the 0. It's close, guys. I mean, I'm going to call it good, and we're going to keep rolling. We're halfway through. Actually, we're one spring more than halfway through. So here we go again. So guys, I know you are probably getting tired of hearing me talk, and I know there's still going to be a whole bunch of people out there saying that this does not matter. You're talking a few pounds, but if your manufacturer wants you somewhere, that's the phone ringing. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to shut it off because I want this to go straight. Because again, there's so many people out there that are thinking, oh, it's fake. He stops. He's photoshopping stuff. This is a continual video. You can see it. Spring number 10 came in at 138 pounds. So we still have not hit the 145 anywhere. Spring number 11 comes in at 130 pounds. So again, testing these springs improperly are going to give you improper results. It's not going to be correct. It's going to be wrong. And 138 pounds for spring number 12. So, I mean, there's going to be tons of people out there that are going to still say, hey, it doesn't matter. Well, to each their own. You know, sometimes any engine builder is going to tell you it's the small things that matter. Speaking of small things, now guys, number 13 kind of made a little pop, and I think the inner spring might have got hung on the outer spring just a hair. So even though it said 140 pounds, I want to double check it to be sure it was correct. So we're going to go ahead and tighten it up again and make sure it is proper at the 140 pounds. So here goes spring number 13 a second time. And yep, it was correct. So it is 140 pounds, which is our highest spring so far. So guys, I know this again is going to be long and drawn out, but I wanted to run it in real time, and I wanted to run it non-stop. That way there were no people thinking it's fake. Number 14 comes in at 131 pounds. And again, we're looking for 155 plus or minus 10. Still no ballpark at all. Spring number 15, 131 pounds. And here comes our final spring, number 16. Let's see if we get there. Well, that's a big no. 129 pounds. Now again, guys, no retainer. These were all incorrect. So these are the numbers that we finished with. And again, I'm not worried about the order because these numbers mean nothing to me, because now we're going to show you how we're going to test our springs. So guys, I want y'all to understand, I'm going to show you measuring the spring here without the retainer and then with the retainer, and I get more in depth in this in the video that's pictured above, and the link is in the description of this video. Now, while I was doing this, I had moved the camera over to show you and get all the measurements and stuff, and then I decided to use the camera that's above me and show you the measurements of the springs with and without the retainer, and the difference, how it would come out to almost exactly 100 thousandths. So then what I did was I went on ahead and reset my caliper to deduct the 100,000 difference. That way, whenever we showed the measurements for the installed height, we're still showing the 1 inch 780 thousandths. That way it didn't confuse anybody. So here I am deducting the 100 thousandths, and I want you to notice that the red light on the camera in front of my arm, or should I say behind my forearm, is solid. It's no longer flashing. Evidently when I moved the camera, I turned the record button off. So here I go to verify my installed height and show it to you, which I assure you was at 1 inch 780 thousandths. I thought I was recording. I even held the camera up, and it wasn't. So I'm going to re-verify that later on, but our very first spring with the retainer shows to be at 158 pounds. And remember, our target's 155 plus or minus 10. So the first spring's pretty much dead nuts on. So here we go with spring 2, and like I was mentioning, I will reassure the settings halfway through and at the end. So spring number 2 comes in at 150. So far, we have 2 springs, and they're both within the tolerances of the manufacturer specifications when tested properly with the retainer installed. So go figure. And also guys, this is with us using the stop, and so there are going to be variances, and the springs might be a little bit different height. The retainers could be just a little bit different thickness. Spring number 3 comes in at 150 pounds, and the retainers are numbered on these, and I will use these figures, and if I get any springs that are super high and some that might be a little borderline too low, we'll play the whole game changing out the inner springs and seeing if it changes. Spring number 4 is perfect, 155 pounds. And see if we can bring them tighter in. So right now our largest spring's at 158 pounds. So if we have one that's way low, what we'll do is we'll switch inner springs and see if that changes anything, and then we can also flip the retainers. Spring number 5 comes in at 150 pounds. So far, all looks well. Now, again, this is real, I guess you could say, might be considered over analytical. You might think, hey, I take these out of the bag or box and put them in, never had any issues. Spring number 6 is at 145, which is at our minimum setting that's allowed. So that one's kind of like on the borderline, but we'll see what happens further down the road. So again, some people might think that this is being nitpicking and stuff, and you can just pull these out of the box and live with it, and to each your own. If it works for you, that's great. Spring number 7 comes in at 142. So that's our lowest spring so far, which is still highest, or would have been higher than the highest with no retainer. So again, this just shows the difference. And I understand we're talking 18, 20, 22 pounds, somewhere in there, but that all makes a difference. So spring number 8 comes in at 148 pounds, which is still, it's within the ballpark. And now we're gonna go ahead and check spring number 9. And this is where I will verify the actual stop setting was correct. And even though the camera didn't get it, I wanted to run this non-stop live. I didn't want any, deep or however you might want to say it, to where people could question whether or not there's smoke and mirrors or if it's legit. So here you see spring number 9 is at 150 pounds, and I'm going to go ahead and verify the actual setting. And if you notice, I pushed the button on the camera and the red light is now flashing, so that means it is recording. So I caught it this time. I didn't catch it the first time, so that kind of sucked. So here we go, and we're doing our recording, and you can see up here that it does show that it is pretty much dead nuts on. Now I understand it might be, the 1 and 779 with the 5, but guys, you're talking way down the line, and that is a very small amount that could be in anything. So spring number 9, like I said, was 150 pounds, which is within tolerance. And now we're going to go ahead and roll through the rest of these. And again, at the end, I will check the setting again to show you that it is legit from start to finish. So spring number 10 comes in at 149 pounds, which still is within our ballpark. I know y'all are probably thinking this is me being real picky, but I tried to put the springs in, pointed at the same and everything. Spring number 11 comes in at 158, so it matches our number 1 spring, which is at 158. So we have 2 that are at 158, and our lowest spring was at 142. So again, I'll either take number 1 or number 11 and maybe, play the inner spring game when we set these springs up for our operating pressures that we're going to turn into BTR and verify that they're cool with me doing it. Spring number 12 comes in at 150, which is perfect. Spring number 13 comes in at 144, so it is borderline, but it's still livable. It's doable. It's close enough, It's just, dealing with those earlier without the retainer in them, calling them 129, 130, 132s and stuff like that. That's a little bit more excessive, guys. Spring number 14 comes in at 154 pounds. So again, it's almost dead nuts on. Spring number 15 comes in at 150 pounds. And here we go with our final spring. Let's see if it hits dead nuts on again, or if it's like the last spring of the last test where it's not there. Oh shit, I jinxed myself. It comes in at 142 pounds, so it matched our lowest. So I'll take spring number 7 and spring number 16, and what I'll probably do is play the inner spring and retainer game. Now here we go. We're going to go ahead and double check our measurement and be sure that our settings were on and the stop was correct. And as you can see, it's perfect. 1 inch, 780 thousandths. Now guys, I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to go ahead and clear and zero out the caliper and take the negative 100 thousandths off. So the number we should be looking at right now with the retainer installed should be 1 inch, 880 thousandths. That's to include the 100 thousandths for the retainer. And as you can see here, it's pretty much on the freaking money. So there you go, guys. The proof is in the pudding. Does the retainer matter? Well, hell yeah, it matters. So here we go, and we're going to do a little bit of a comparison and discuss our findings. So now I remind you guys, the test with the no retainer and the retainer, I did not care about the springs being in the order whenever they were tested without a retainer, because those numbers meant absolutely squat to me. So the springs were not compared to each other. Now, once I did pull the ratings up with the retainer in them, the retainers were numbered 1 through 16. That way I could keep track of those numbers, and whenever we set the springs up for our installed height, any of the springs that were way low, for instance, number 7 and number 16, they were both at 142. I'll take the inner springs out of number 1 and number 11, which were at 158, and swap them and see if I can pull my numbers a little bit closer in. And then we'll go from there. But it's just a game. So again, my manufacturer, which is BTR, suggested 10 pounds plus or minus from my target, which was 155. If you look at them without a retainer, they all fell. You look at them with, there's only 2 that are kind of iffy and 1 that's borderline. So guys, I figured I'd share this with y'all. As you can see here, this spring is at the installed height of 1 inch, 780 thousandths, and it yielded 132 pounds, which was way low compared to the 155 that it's supposed to have, and this was without a retainer. So here it is at the open setting, which was 1 inch, 113 thousandths, and it should yield 400 pounds of pressure. Well, so I'm going to tilt this and show you exactly where it is. And again, I don't like tilting it because it's kind of hard to show you the true number. But let me go ahead and just share this with you real quick, and I'm going to show you what it shows as far as pound wise, and then I'm going to get a different view. So as you can see here, it's roughly at 362 pounds. That's way less than 400. And again, that's without a retainer. Now I'm not going to check all 16 of these and show them to you, and because it's a waste of time. But when I had the caliper down level, like I showed y'all earlier, so I'm going to move the camera again, I can share with y'all that it is showing that it is at the proper height, which is the 1 inch, 113 thousandths, and it's nowhere near 400 pounds. But again, that's without the retainer. So hey, for those of you that stayed along and watched the video, thanks, and I will see y'all next time.